And to security in Central Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo has now announced a $5 million reward for the capture of 3 M23 rebel leaders, including former electoral chief Colonel Nanga, military commander Sultani Makenga, and political leader Bertrand Bispemwa. The trio was sentenced to death last year for treason. However, arresting them seems unlikely as M23 forces backed by Rwanda continue to control key cities in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, including Goma and Bukavu. The ongoing conflict has led to thousands of deaths and displaced hundreds of thousands. The president is now calling for international sanctions against Rwanda, which a UN report claims has deployed troops to support M23. Rwanda denies looting Congo's resources, but acknowledges backing the rebels due to security concerns, citing ties between DR Congo and a militia linked to the 1994 Rwandan genocide. The situation in eastern DR Congo remains dire, with the M23 controlling major provincial capitals and also fighting intensifying over the region's valuable mineral resources. Away from Africa to the Middle East, Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Shara has announced the formation of an independent committee to investigate the deadly clashes between security forces and fighters loyal to the ousted president Bashar al-Assad. The violence, which erupted in the coastal cities of Latakia and Tartus, has left more than 1,000 persons dead, mostly civilians. Al-Shara condemned the attacks and vowed to hold those responsible for the bloodshed accountable as the country faces an attempt to plunge it into a civil war. Now, despite the violence, he urged for national unity, reassuring Syrians that the country has the strength to survive these challenges. The clashes have triggered a widespread concern, with both the UN and regional leaders calling for accountability and stability. The investigation is expected to conclude within 30 days as tensions remain high and Syria grapples with its ongoing political and security crisis. Joining me from the United Kingdom for this conversation is a global affairs analyst, Dr. Bola Adediro. It's good to have you join us on The World Now. Well, let's start by saying that the recent clashes has been tagged as the worst since the toppling of Assad in December, and the new government already planned to, unite Syria. But in light of recent development that we've seen, do you think it's likely that this current government can fulfill that promise?
Thank you for having me, Olamide. Yes, you're absolutely correct. This is one of the worst cases of violence, not only since the fall of Assad, but since the Syrian civil conflict began almost 14 years ago. What we are seeing is something we sort of expected after the fall of Assad, which is that there would be sort of intestine violence, almost civil conflicts. Don't forget that there are still hundreds of militant groups aligned to different both regional forces and international forces operating within different regions in Syria. And the capacity of HTS, which is the governing authority, to control and bring all of those groups together for the purposes of peace, it's still doubtful. And then you still have the pro-Assad militias, those who obviously were in power for a long time, who enjoyed patronage from the past government, still armed and controlling certain parts of the region, including Tartus that you've mentioned. So it is inevitable that there will be clashes between these groups. What we want to see is the extent to which this government is committed not only to ensuring that minority groups are protected, but that those who have committed these heinous crimes against civilians, that they are brought to justice.
And this clash has resulted in sort of, downgrading and also taking advantage of human rights. And it also, takes us back to the question you asked about the extent to which this government is invested or interested in bringing an end to this. We have seen disturbing images from the affected region, of course, with many civilians affected. But now that this region has become a major security challenge, has this poised to affect the political transition?
Well, the political transition is on hold for now. The capacity, obviously, the HTS has mentioned over time very clearly that transition into democratic role is going to take some time, and nobody is expecting that to happen anytime from now. What we want to really see is stability, peace within that region, and ensuring that there are no revenge attacks against minority groups. So the Christians, the Druze, the Alawites are being targeted particularly now. In fact, in some of the worst violences we're seeing, the whole family being wiped out. And these are concerning. So we want to see, obviously, the HTS not only impress its capacity and its ability to bring about peace across Syria, but coming into agreement with all of these groups to ensure that as much as people want justice to be done, especially those who've committed atrocities under the Assad regime, but it does not provide sort of an umbrella for them to end up committing heinous crimes against ordinary civilians.
And there are questions about the long-term implications of this conflict on regional stability now that the interim president has launched an investigation after these deadly clashes. But what's the extent or how much impact is it likely to have on regional stability and efforts to prevent or reduce extremism in Syria?
Well, one of the key factors that we were hoping not to see again is a return to an outflow of refugees. After the fall of Assad, you found that hundreds of thousands of refugees left Turkey, left Jordan, and even some of them who were in Europe before felt confident to come back to Syria. If the violence continues on a larger scale than we're seeing now, I mean, 1,000 people have died. But if this violence continues and the government is not able to bring some peace and stability to the affected regions, then we'll see a greater outflow of refugees. And that is destabilizing for any state within the region. Secondly, you also don't want to create vacuum for ISIS or what is called Daesh in that region to begin to take territory. Daesh still holds ground in certain parts of Syria, and they best operate and they best thrive in an atmosphere of chaos, in an atmosphere where there is a vacuum of leadership. So a key concern, obviously, would be ensuring that Daesh does not begin, or ISIS does not begin to take territories and begin to foment trouble.
All right, thank you for talking to us, the Global Affairs Analyst, Dr. Bola Adediran. Thank you for joining us on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.
And now to the United